राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे। यावतः कृतवान् प्रश्नान् क्षत्ता कौशारवाग्रतः जातैक भक्तिर गोविंदे तेभ्यश्चोपर रामः. After asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya. So, yesterday we started a new chapter. Dhritarashtra quits home. So, we have to come to the point of, so Srimad Bhagavatam was first spoken by Sukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So we are coming to that point. What are the incidents that led or that happened prior to the conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Vyasdev, or let's say the Suta Goswami, Shaunakadi Rishis are questioning Suta Goswami. So Suta Goswami started with the end of the battle, how the battle ended, and then certain questions were asked. So those questions were answered in the course of describing the events that took place since the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. So we read about the birth of Parikshit Maharaj and how Lord Krishna, supported Yudhishthir Maharaj in performing Ashwamedha Yagyas. So now we have to also, we will also read how the Pandavas retired, and then Parikshit Maharaj will take over and he will become the next emperor. So now this chapter is about Dhritarashtra Maharaj's quitting home. Of course, it's not simply a pastime or story. Actually, we get lessons. Srimad Bhagavatam, every word of Srimad Bhagavatam is actually speaking about pure devotional service to Krishna. Just like today's verse also. What is the essence of today's verse? So Vidura had gone on pilgrimage. So we will read in detail about this particular incident in the third canto, in the beginning of third canto. Under what circumstances Vidura left home and how he went on pilgrimage and how he met Maitreya Muni and what was the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya Muni and all the questions asked by Vidura and answers given by Maitreya Muni, like that. And then finally, so this is, we are reading in brief now. So Vidura, he went on pilgrimage and now he's coming back. Why is he coming back? Out of his compassion for his brother Dhritarashtra. So, but before he would do that, or he could do that, he actually asked, he approached a spiritual master, he approached a guru. That is today's topic. This verse is actually talking about Vidura put so many questions to Maitreya Muni, and finally he retired from putting questions. So the point is, when does one stop putting questions? In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says that this whole world, at every moment, there's simply, in this world, in this existence, there's nothing but questions and answers. In any field, whether you're a housewife, you're a mother, or you are, you are a teacher, a student, you go for shopping in the store, you're constantly asking questions and you're getting answers. Yes? But when does this questioning and answering stop? Vidura said, here it is said that Vidura quit putting any further questions. That means there was nothing else to be known. He understood the final thing. So there were no more questions. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that when Vidura was convinced by Maitreya Muni that the summum bonum of life, what is the summum bonum of life? The ultimate perfection of life. We are all trying to make advancement. We are trying to progress in various different fields. We are trying to get better and better and better. What is the ultimate perfection of life? The ultimate perfection of life is to finally be situated in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna. Another name of Krishna is Govinda. Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. Or in other words, one who satisfies his devotees in all respects. There won't be any more hankering left after you, when you render devotional service to Krishna, you will be completely satisfied and you won't hanker for anything else. What is the situation of the conditioned soul? Conditioned soul means us in this material world, all living entities in this material world. We are always seeking happiness. Whatever we do, we are seeking happiness, but we are seeking happiness through material means. Through material sense gratification, we want to become happy. So maybe by eating something, or maybe through relationships, or maybe through achieving, you set some goals for yourself and you achieve some position, and then you think this will make me happy. You wear nice clothes and you become happy, or whatever, like this. So many different things we are trying to become happy. So this is one way. That's fruitive activity. So people are trying, that is majority of the people in the world. They are trying to become happy through fruitive activity, through sense gratification. But after some time, you realize you're not satisfied with that. When you do the same thing over, just like, let's say you like to eat a particular, let's say like gulab jamuns very much. So you eat the first time, you like it, and then you eat again and again and again. And then after some time, if you were just fed a plate full of only gulab, you'll get disgusted. You don't want to eat again. At least at that time, at that moment, you don't want any more. So that is what happens when somebody is engaging in fruitive activity, overly engaging in fruitive activity, then they'll be disgusted. Then they will look for something higher, something beyond this material existence. That is, they take to empiric philosophical method. That means they contemplate, is there anything beyond this life? I have seen all types of happiness in this world. Can I get anything more than this? And then they take to the path of jnana. And then they understand, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. And they try to become satisfied. Oh, all this happiness in this world is petty happiness. So I'm seeking something beyond this, and they try to get satisfaction. But even there, they cannot remain in that state eternally, because we are all active, conscious, living beings. We seek interaction. Simply realizing I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul is not sufficient. And Beyond that is bhakti. Beyond this jnana is bhakti. Bhakti means when you connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through pure unalloyed devotional service. Only when one gets bhakti, pure unalloyed devotional service, is one's heart completely satisfied, not hankering for anything else. So if somebody comes to jnana path and then if he's not able to progress further to bhakti, then after some time, for want of activity, he will come back again to fruitive work. So then he will take to social service and all types of altruistic, activities. Or he may simply go back to, gross sense gratification. So the real satisfaction of the soul can only be achieved through bhakti. Until and unless you get that bhakti for Krishna, you will keep asking questions. You have so many questions. So when you get full faith, full conviction, right, that all I have to do is devotional service to Krishna. I don't have to do anything else except this. Until and unless I get full conviction in that, I will keep asking questions. And I should ask questions. Actually, one should ask questions. Now, the question is, who will I ask questions? What is the qualification of the person that I'm asking all these questions? So, it is said that the spiritual master, where you're approaching for these answers, he should have certain qualifications. So, first of all, the point is you must approach a guru. Tad vijnanartham sa gurumeva abhigachet. This is from Mundaka Upanishad. To understand the conclusion of the scripture. What is the conclusion of the scripture? After studying everything, what is the final conclusion? Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyaha. To know Krishna. That is the purpose of all knowledge. And after knowing Krishna, to render devotional service to him. That is the purpose of knowledge. So to get that vijnana means that realization, one must humbly approach a spiritual master. And now what is the qualification of the spiritual master? Shabde parehi nishnatam. He is learned in the Vedas. Shabda means Vedas. Pare means he should also have practical experience. Shabde parehi nishnatam. He should be expert in the knowledge of the scriptures, first of all, and also he should have practical experience in rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord. This is the qualification of a spiritual master. When one approaches such a spiritual master, such a guru is called a Shravana Guru. Shravana Guru means from whom we hear. What are we hearing? We are hearing the conclusion of the scripture. And then when we hear from the spiritual master, because we have so many ideas from before, preconceived ideas, we get so many doubts, so many questions in our heart. Sometimes we don't agree with what he's saying because we have some other ideas. If he's saying this is black, I think no, it is white. That is called viparita bhavana. And the other type of opposition that I experience in my heart is asambhavana. When the spiritual master says something, I'll think, how is that possible? It is impossible. That cannot be. So this is called asambhavana and viparita bhavana. So when we hear from the spiritual master, because I'm coming from the material background, I will experience this asambhavana and viparita bhavana. So after hearing, the next step is mananam or deliberation. I have to deliberate on the instructions that I have received from the spiritual master. Just like we read Srila Prabhupada's purports, we hear lectures of Srila Prabhupada, we hear lectures from various spiritual teachers. Then we have to reflect on what we have heard. By this process of reflection, our doubts will be eliminated. And then our faith will become strong. Faith in what? Faith in bhakti, in the process of bhakti. That simply by doing bhakti, I will achieve all perfection. Bhakti to whom? bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Govinda. So Vidura got this conviction when he inquired from Maitreya. And now he was completely situated in not simply self-realization. He was situated in pure unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And out of compassion, he wanted to go to Dhritarashtra and help him also come out of his entanglement. So today is also so many things. Today is Purnima, Bhadra Purnima. Today is the day when Srila Prabhupada accepted sannyas. Today is the day when Sri Vishvaru. Who is Vishvaru? Vishvaru is the elder brother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is actually Lord Nityananda Prabhu in another form. He also accepted sannyas today. So I will go over that pastime of Srila Vishvaru sannyas. So Vishvaru was the older brother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu Nimai was still a young boy. So we know before Vishvaru, there were some daughters who were born and who passed away. Vishwarup's personality was, he was very grave. And he was always absorbed in studying the scriptures. Nimai, as a small child, was very restless. And he would do so much mischief. And his parents would not say anything to him out of fear that if they said anything, he would do twice as much mischief. But although the Lord was not afraid of his father and mother, when he saw his elder brother Vishwaru, he would become very humble, very subservient. Vishwarup was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And he was renounced right from birth. He was a treasure house of all virtues. I will just read from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is the 7th chapter of Adi Khanda. This chapter describes the sannyas of Vishwarup. Commenting on the scriptures, he taught that all scriptures describe Vishnu Bhakti, devotional service to Lord Vishnu. No one had the power to break his explanations. He engaged his ears, voice, mind, and all his senses in Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to Lord Krishna. He did not hear or speak of anything else. Seeing his younger brother's mischief, Vishwarup was filled with wonder in his heart. He thought, this boy is not like a resident of the material world. His form and deeds are like those of child Krishna. Again and again, he does what human beings cannot. I think he is Lord Krishna, manifest as a child and enjoying pastimes. Vishwarup thought in this way. Still, he did not reveal the truth. Whatever he thought in his heart, he didn't reveal this to anyone. He remained engrossed in his own activities. He always stayed among the Vaishnavas. He spoke of Krishna, was devoted to Krishna, and happily worshipped Krishna. What was the situation of the world at that time? The whole material world was mad after money, children, and material education. Whenever they saw them, the materialists, when they saw the Vaishnavas, they would mock them. They would say, they would make statements like, sannyasis, yogis, and faithful wives must all die in the end. So what is the point? What is the point in your, chanting? And everyone has to die. So just enjoy your life now. I say that the word fortunate means a person who rides on a horse, or a person who rides on a palanquin, or a person who has 10 or 20 servants running ahead and behind. So a typical materialistic mentality. No question of austerity, and what to speak of surrendering one life to devotional service. They would say, you Vaishnavas weep tears of love for your Lord, but the tears do not break your poverty and misery. Again and again you scream, Hari, Hari. Your Lord will become angry when he hears you screaming like that. Hearing these words from these non-devotees, the great devotees became very unhappy. Not hearing the descriptions of Lord Krishna Chandra that he yearned to hear, Lord Vishvaru became very unhappy. So Vishvaru would go every day to Advaita Acharya's house in the morning. And there in Advaita Acharya's home, all the devotees would gather and they would discuss Krishna Katha. So all the Vaishnavas headed by Advaita Acharya, when they saw the illogical ideas of the people in general, they would weep. And Vishwarup also in his heart, he thought, I will not look at the faces of these people. I will go to the forest. So this was one of the reasons why Vishwarup wanted to leave home and take sannyas. He could not stand to see people wasting their lives without Krishna consciousness. So he said, what is the use? I'll just leave this association of these people. I won't look at their faces. I will go to the forest. And how did the devotees feel in the association of Vishvarup? When he would explain Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to Lord Krishna, when he would say that this is the true meaning of all the scriptures, Advaita Acharya would roar with pleasure. When Vishvarup would arrive at Advaita Acharya's home, Advaita Acharya would be performing deity worship. He would stop deity worship and go and embrace Vishvarup. And all the Vaishnavas there, when they saw Vishvarup, they would go, Hari, Hari. So they would become jubilant when they saw Vishvarup. They roared like lions out of bliss of Krishna consciousness. And they would forget all their sadness simply by seeing Vishvarup. They wouldn't want to leave his company and go home. And similarly, Vishvarup also, he didn't spend time at home. In the morning, he would wake up, he would go to the Ganga, take bath, and then he would directly go to Advaita Acharya's house. He was not, material happiness did not bring any pleasure to his heart. He was always absorbed in the bliss of Krishna Kirtan. And even when he was at home, for whatever little time, when he was at home, he would just stay in the room of, in a room which was assigned as the Vishnu temple, the temple room in the house, Vishnu temple. He would just stay in that room. He would hardly ever go to the other rooms in the house. So then the parents also kind of got concerned. This is their eldest son. So they thought if he got married, then he would spend more time with the family at home. So they started making plans for his marriage. When Vishwarup heard this, he became unhappy at heart. And he thought, now I must renounce the world. He decided in his heart, I must go to the forest. And thinking about this, he kept awake. He was up all night. Now, what the Supreme Lord is desiring in his heart, only the Supreme Lord can know. So after he left home, and after a few days, he accepted sannyas. So today is that day. And after he took sannyas, his name was Shankararanya. And he became the best of the Vaishnavas as a sannyasi, and he walked on the path that leads to the limitless Supreme Person. What was the condition of his parents, of his brother, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Vishwarup left home? The hearts of Sachi and Jagannath Mishra burst into flames. His parents And even Nimai, they loudly wept, tormented by separation. In fact, Lord Chaitanya fell unconscious when he heard that his brother had taken sannyas. You see, in those days, taking sannyas meant you would never see him again. It was like a social suicide. You would never see that person again. It's not like nowadays. At least you would see either in person, or you could see, you can keep track of where they're traveling and what they're doing. You would not know anything whether the person is living or not. So it's as good as losing the person for good. So that's why such separation was experienced. Jagannath Mishra, his home became filled with weeping all day. And when the Vaishnavas heard about this, they also started to cry, Advaitacharya and the other Vaishnavas. And his father and mother, they would cry, Vishvaru, Vishvaru, like that. And all the other friends and relatives, they tried to console Jagannath Mishra. They said, oh, Jagannath Mishra, please be peaceful. Don't be unhappy at heart. Your son is a great soul. He's going to liberate his entire family. If one person in the family takes sannyas, 60 million of his family members, they get liberated and they go to live in Vaikuntha. So by taking up sannyas, your son has actually attained the perfection of knowledge. You shouldn't cry. You should be very happy. So in this way, they would console the parents of Vishvarup. So in this way, Vishvarup left home. His form is non-different from the form of Lord Nityananda. Whoever hears this description of Lord Vishvarup's sannyas attains Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to Lord Krishna. And for him, the noose of karma is cut. So this is from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. So this incident happened on this day. And today is also the sannyas, acceptance of sannyas by Srila Prabhupada. So what is the significance of sannyas? What does sannyas mean? Let's understand that first. In Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 1st verse, it is said, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha, Anashritaha karma phalam, karyam karma karoti yaha, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, na niragnir na chakriyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So this principle is very important. That sannyas, what does sannyas mean? Sannyas doesn't mean simply changing the dress to saffron robes. Sannyas is actually a state of consciousness. And actually real sannyas is Vaishnav sannyas. When one dedicates, when one takes that step to completely dedicate all his energy in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through his body, through his mind, and through his words. That means he won't do anything with his body which is not service to Krishna. He won't think or plan, use his mind in any way except for the service of Krishna. And he won't speak anything other than glorification of Krishna or in the service of Krishna. This is sannyas. This is sannyas. And so sannyas doesn't mean you stop working. In fact, what we have to give up is attachment to the fruits of our work. So our mentality is when I do something, then I'm the enjoyer of the result. But sannyasi means you do all the work and you give all the result to Krishna. So if you are able to do that while staying in Grihastha ashram, you are as good as a sannyasi. 2 days ago, we celebrated the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in the Grihastha ashram. And His Grace Prananath Prabhu told us about the activities of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How did he spend his time? His family, his work, his time, everything was completely dedicated to the service of Krishna. But sometimes this may be a family situation and work may pose as an obstacle in rendering devotional service to Krishna. So in that case, in that situation, one may give up his duties in this world in order to take up higher service. So there is an important principle. There's one verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 22. If you're able to share that. Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 22. No? Okay. So I'll just open it up. So that verse actually talks about what is sannyas. One second, let me just open it up. 3:25, 22. Yeah. So this shloka says that such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. So in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that when one gives up his obligations, so as soon as one takes birth, he automatically becomes indebted to so many people. He becomes indebted to his parents for giving birth to him, to the demigods, to other living beings, to so many people. He becomes indebted. So in order to relieve himself of that debt, he has to perform sacrifice. He has to perform sacrifice. So when he gives up all such obligations, the service of the Supreme Lord, then he is not punishable by the laws of nature. He is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, then he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. But if for sense gratification, a person renounces all such obligations, then he is punished by the law of nature. So we are indebted, we cannot get away from our duty. But when we give up that duty for the sake of serving the Supreme Lord. So for a higher purpose, if you give up the lower duties, that is accepted. Higher purpose means for the sake of devotional service. If you give up. So when you accept sannyas for the sake of serving Krishna, then you're not punishable. But if you're thinking, oh, this family life is so troublesome, I have to work so hard and earn money and maintain these children and my family, providing for them, it's too much trouble, so let me give up. If we give up the obligation, then it is actually, we are punishable. Yeah. Okay. So coming to Srila Prabhupada's taking of sannyas. In 1922, Srila Prabhupada had met his spiritual master for the first time. And he received this instruction from his spiritual master that you are an educated young man. So he was with his friends. So he said, you are educated young men. You should take up this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and preach this mission in the English language. take it all over the world and you should preach this message. And Srila Prabhupada was a grihastha, was a householder at that time. And he took that mission to his heart, but he didn't give up his family responsibilities. He stayed at home and he was maintaining his family, doing his occupational duties honestly. And simultaneously, he was also assisting in his spiritual master in spreading Krishna consciousness. He was working with other god brothers who were sannyasis in acquiring properties for temples. He would also give lectures, and he would meet with important persons in society, and he would introduce them to the sannyasis, and in this way he was assisting. At one point, his god brothers, they suggested to their spiritual master that Abhay, he is so good, he should actually join the temple. He should take sannyas and he should join the temple. And his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, said, that's not required. He will do everything in due course of time. So Srila Prabhupada's sense of renunciation, his Dridhavrata, his determination and his renunciation was noted by his spiritual master even when he was in the Grihastha ashram, because he was constantly engaged in rendering devotional service. He was not attached to the fruits of his work. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew it very well that when the time came, he would do everything single-handedly. He would take this mission all over the world alone. He had that confidence. So Srila Prabhupada was doing business. He was experiencing. He was not getting cooperation from his family members in his preaching. His business was failing. But he never stopped preaching. He would write to important persons in the society, the leaders, politicians, and he started his Back to Godhead magazine. All this is while he was still in India. And he didn't even have enough money to print his Back to Godhead magazine. But he never stopped writing. He would keep writing. And meanwhile, his business was failing. So he took it and he got dreams from his spiritual master. He dreamt about his spiritual master calling him to take sannyas and follow him. And in his dream, Srila Prabhupada was following his Guru Maharaj. So when he woke up, he thought it was horrible. He thought that, how can I give up my family and my responsibilities? Guru Maharaj is calling me. So he approached his god brother, another sannyasi god brother, and he told him, I had a dream, Guru Maharaj wants me to take sannyas. And he kept such dreams again and again. And he left home at one point. He understood that Srila Prabhupada often remembered his Guru Maharaj quoting this verse from the 10th canto, that when Krishna is especially favorable to a particular devotee, he takes everything away from him. So Srila Prabhupada accepted it as Krishna's mercy. And he became more and more renounced, and gradually he gave up his ties with his family. So I'll just read one paragraph from Leelamrita. When he visited his family in Calcutta, old friends, so now Srila Prabhupada was not living with his family in Calcutta. He was still maintaining them though. He was in Allahabad. He started another, a small factory to support the family, and he would visit. Actually, his family had moved because they were not getting enough funds. He was falling behind in paying rents and paying to the workers in his business. So his family moved. His wife moved to her father's home. And once when Prabhupada visited his wife at Prabhupada's father-in-law's home, he noticed that they were eating food which was purchased from, it was served to him. Whatever food was served to him was purchased from the market. It was not cooked and offered at the temple at home. So he asked his wife, and she said, "Oh, the cook is sick today, so we just bought from outside." So Srila Prabhupada saw that this is not very favorable for the family members, for the Krishna consciousness. So he moved them back to another place. So once when he visited them, when he visited his family in Calcutta, usually old friends would gather in his room and he would preach and give classes on Bhagavad Gita. And Abhay invited his wife and family to take part in these discussions. But they would resolutely sit in an upstairs room, often taking tea, as if in defiance of his preaching. Defiance means they were against, they rejected. Abhay was supporting them. He was still associating with them, but he was bent on preaching. And they were not making it attractive for him to do so within the family. If there were to be family life for Abhay, then his wife and sons would have to recognize and rejoice in the fact that he was becoming a full-fledged preacher. They would have to understand that his life's concern was to serve his spiritual master's mission. They could not simply ignore his transformation. They could not insist that he was simply an ordinary man. Abhay continued to try to draw his wife in, hoping she would gradually follow him in the preacher's life. But she had not the slightest interest in her husband's preaching. And why should he spend his days worrying about family, chemicals, and money? So Srila Prabhupada saw, he remembered Madhavendra Puri's prayer. "O demigods and forefathers, please excuse me. I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. Now I have decided to free myself from all reactions to sins, simply by remembering anywhere and everywhere the great descendant of Yadu and the great enemy of Kamsa. I think that this is sufficient for me. So what is the use of further endeavors?" So in this mood, Srila Prabhupada gradually gave up connections with his family, and step by step, one after another, all his ties were broken. When he was preaching in Jhansi, once he received a letter that he was not even in his business now. He had taken completely to preaching. He received a letter saying that his shop or his lab, there was burglary, and his own servants, burglary means people who break in and they steal everything away. His own servants had stolen all money, all medicines, whatever was there of value, it was all stolen. And when Srila Prabhupada read that, he just laughed and he chanted this prayer from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyaham anugrihnami harishye tad dhanam shanai tato dhanam tyajantyasya svajana dukkha dukkhitam. When I feel especially merciful towards someone, I gradually take away all his material possessions, his friends and relatives, then reject this poverty-stricken and most wretched fellow. So Prabhupada personally experienced this. And he took that opportunity to completely embrace the mission of his Guru Maharaj. And he dedicated himself completely. So on one occasion, in the early days of ISKCON, in 1968, when Srila Prabhupada's Sannyas Guru, the person who gave him Sannyas initiation, passed away. On that day, Srila Prabhupada addressed the devotees. And on that day, Srila Prabhupada said to the devotees that actually this Maharaj he inspired me to give up family life and take sannyas, because unless one takes to the renounced order of life, he cannot preach. That's what his god brother told him. And then Srila Prabhupada said, actually, it is not this god brother, it was my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who pulled me out of this material world, speaking through my god brother, like that. So, today is a day which is significant for all of us who are in ISKCON, to understand the sacrifices made by Srila Prabhupada, and to somehow, one way or the other, in an insignificant way, imbibe this spirit of renunciation. And what is renunciation? Renunciation is to dedicate all our energy in the service of Lord Krishna. In whatever capacity we are able to do, we should at least move forward in that spirit. And also today is Bhadra Purnima. So about Bhadra Purnima, there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me see. Yes. It says, if on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, which is today, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, one should place Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne because it is the king of all literature. On the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, the sun, which is compared to this king of literatures, this Bhagavatam is compared to the sun, is present in the constellation Leo and looks as if raised up on a royal throne. Thus, one may unreservedly worship Srimad Bhagavatam, the supreme divine scripture. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Those were a lot of topics for you to discuss today. I'm sorry I came a little bit late. I was actually in line to ask a question. So it was interesting that your class today was about asking questions, about accepting Guru. So I will ask this question, but maybe tomorrow when I see you at the temple. One thing that I was thinking is I usually tend not to have questions. I feel, but then when somebody else asks a question, I think, oh my goodness, that is such a good question. That is a question I don't have the answer for. It doesn't come to me. But that's just where I am. I'm not trying to say it is good or bad. It is where it is. I'm just trying to accept it. The other point that I feel that's important, you were talking about what is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is devotional service. Sometimes we get stuck. I'm also thinking about the class that I attended, the Bhakti Shastri class, and devotional service. It's the ultimate goal is devotional service. Whatever it is we are trying to do is to make us become good devotees. And what does that mean? That means to do service. Sometimes we get a little carried away. We want to do service that is, I mean, we attribute gradations to it. We say this is better service, this is lower service, this service is, higher value and stuff. I think one good way to think about it is there are certain things I am good at, certain things I'm not quite there. If you ask me to sing, it will be, everybody will run away. This is just something I cannot do. So it's okay. It's okay that I don't sing. Some of us can give money. We just don't have the physical strength or the ability to do certain things. I cannot sing, and that's just the way it is. But I might be able to give money, or I might be able to do dishes, or I might be able to cook, or I might be able to teach children. Do whatever it is you can. Again, this is all tying into that topic about, you were mentioning 6:1. Sannyasi is not one who does not light fire. We can do whatever it is we can wherever we are, instead of thinking I have to lead kirtan in the temple room where everybody can see me. I remember saying this once when we had gotten the playground for the children. And it was a small project. It was nothing huge. It was a small project, but that project would not have come together. The people who gave money, Kaivalya Prabhu was here. Just a minute. It was Kaivalya Prabhu, Jagannath Chandra Prabhu, and there was one more person. They did not have kids who would have played on that playground, but they gave the money. They gave the Lakshmi for that playground. And then the playground was installed by people who did not give money, did not have money to give, and they did not have children to play with on it either. And then there were other families who had children who could play on it, and they did some of the labor. And one without the other, that project would not have gotten done. Without the money, the people who didn't have money couldn't have put the playground in. And without these people doing that labor, all the money in the world would not have put the playground there. And that has been Prabhupada's instruction to us: cooperate. This with that together is what will get us through this. I mean, between the class in the morning and you, I just felt, and you were talking about Prabhupada taking sannyas today. He took sannyas today to help us all get to this point. So that is my realization today. And tomorrow you can wait to hear my question if I still remember it. And thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. You made my class successful. I was just feeling like I went everywhere, and but you can nicely summed it up with that important point about do whatever. Everyone has different abilities. So we have to do that in the service of Krishna, and without expecting any return, personal return. You do it for the pleasure of Krishna, and everything counts, right? So you do what you are good at. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said that with regard to, at least when I heard that lecture several years ago, what I got out of it was, as a mother, I teach my children what I'm good at, right? So many parents can be teaching so many things, but when I heard that statement from Prabhupada, you do what you are good at for Krishna. So, like you said, right, we all have different devotees, have different abilities, and we use that in Krishna's service, and that's the perfection. That's what is expected. So, yes, thank you. Kalpesh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Sonia Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Accept my humble obeisances. Mataji, I just want to understand the Vidura. It is incarnation of like Yamraja, right?
Yes.
So he was a Mahabhagavad. So
yeah.
how he in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that is a conditioned soul. So how he need the knowledge again from the Maitreya Rishi?
Well, it can be answered in different ways. But one thing is, even great souls, when they come, even Krishna himself, what to speak of a great devotee, even when Krishna comes, he still goes to a guru and he learns. So when great personalities come and they approach Guru, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted a guru and he's asking questions. This is to set an example for all of us in this world. Mahajano gatasya yena pantaha. They show the path, and by following in their footsteps, common men, yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tat evetaro janah. Whatever standards great people set through their example, everyone else follows. That's why the Supreme Lord comes, and eternal associates, they come, and they live in this world like they are one amongst us. They walk the path, and then they show us, oh, follow in my footsteps and you'll get perfection. So that's the reason. That's one of the reasons.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Sure. And when it is said conditioned souls, Srila Prabhupada is saying, for conditioned souls, this is the path. It's not that Srila Prabhupada is saying he is a conditioned soul. So this is how Vidura did, and this is the path to be followed by all conditioned souls. You must seek out a spiritual master and have all your questions answered until you come to the point of taking to devotional service to Krishna, like that.
Yeah.
Actually, this concept of guru can be explained in much detail. There are different types of gurus. This is the first guru. Shravana Guru is the first guru who helps you in getting faith in bhakti. But after that, then comes Shiksha Guru and Bhajan Guru. Their role is they actually guide us how to perform bhajan. So which form of the Lord to worship, what is the process to be taken? Should you do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Archanam? For each person, according to their particular position, a particular path is given. And for that, you need a guru to guide you, even when you're practicing bhakti. And then, of course, there is Mantra Guru. Mantra Guru is Diksha Guru, who gives you mantra. The purpose of Mantra Guru is when there is a need for deity worship. Then for that, you need a Mantra Guru, like that. So there are different gurus. But Shravana Guru plays a very important role. Here we were talking about Shravana Guru because we are coming out from this material background. We have so many ideas, so many questions. So they have to be cleared. And bhakti has to be established because only bhakti will satisfy us completely, like that.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, any announcement, Mataji? Shobha Radhe, Mataji.
I don't have any announcements. At least I haven't been given any instructions, except that tomorrow morning, again, we will meet at 7:50 and have another wonderful class on this chapter.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mataji. I do have some questions, but I don't know how to ask. And sometimes I feel, oh no, whether it's a right question I'm asking or not. So my daughter said already. So thank you very much for a nice
Thank you,
class.
Mataji.
Lot of
Ask it anyway. I would say just ask it. It's okay because someone else may have the same question and they may be hesitating. So when you ask, others will feel relieved. And another statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, person who speaks, person who asks questions, and others who are hearing, everyone is benefited. So
Then
yeah.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Nice class today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.